Hello everyone, welcome back to Ride On Academia. Today we are going to be looking at the method of inventory valuation. Okay, the method of inventory valuation. When we talk about inventory valuation, we want to see how we can be able to know the value of our closing stock. All right, we want to be able to calculate the method that I use in calculating the value. Okay, we want to talk about the value, that means the general price, the total price, okay, of closing stock. Now, there are various methods used in inventory valuation, but for the sake of our class, we'll be only looking at three methods, which is the first in, first out method, which we know as the FIFO. That's what we'll be doing in this video. We'll be looking at the last in, first out method, and then we'll be looking at the weighted average method, all right? So for this video, we are looking at the FIFO method, okay? The FIFO method. That is the first in, first out. All right. Now, under this method, we are assuming that the goods that were bought earlier, okay, the goods that were bought earlier ought to be issued and used first, okay, before the goods that were bought next, okay. So it means goods that were bought in January ought to be issued and used first before we start issuing the goods that were bought in February. All right. The goods that were bought on the 1st or on the 2nd, let's just say following the calendar date now, the goods that were bought on the 1st ought to be issued and used before the goods that were bought on the 2nd. All right. So in the case where issues are made, we treat them based on the goods that came in first. All right. And then we are issuing at that value. All right. Whenever we issue goods at the value, okay, of at which they were purchased. Are we together now? So that is the FIFO believes that we ought to issue those goods that were purchased first, all right, before issuing other goods. Okay, now this is our format on the board for calculating for inventory valuation, right? Now we have our date. Our date work for everybody here. Now I will have divided our account into three sections, which is the receipt side. Now the receipt side is for every goods that is coming into the business. All right, the goods that is coming, the goods that the business is buying from outside. It could be raw material, it could be finished goods, but the receipt, we're talking about those goods that are being bought by the business. All right, so we are recording everything that has to do with receipts here. We record the quantity, the number of goods that were bought, then the price per unit, all right, unit price, and then the value. The value here is talking about the sum total. That is the value, price times quantity. That means the sum total for all the goods that were bought, the total price. Are we there now? The same thing when we come to our issue. The issue talks about goods going out. All right, the goods going out, we still have the quantity. Now under the FIFO, like I said, we are saying for issue, we must first consume a particular receipt first before we go to the next receipt. Are we there now? So the issue now talk about going out. All right, now we are using the same price at which they were bought. Okay, so we are using the same price at which the same unit price, all right, depending on the quantity that was issued, and then we calculate the value. The value is always the price times the quantity. Are we there now? And then lastly, we have our balance. Now our balance is what is left in the store after a purchase was made or after an issue was made. Our balance is like the remainder. Are we there now? So what we have left in the store, if we have a receipt, if there is a receipt, means our balance should be increasing. What we should have in the store should increase. Are we there now? And then if there is an issue, it means our balance should what? Decrease. So our balance is here to help us to know what is left in the store. All right, then at the end we can now know the value of our closing stock. So now we'll be going on a short break, and then when we come back, we'll take an illustration. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Quickly, we'll be looking at an illustration. All right, now we have that God's favors enterprise deal with purchase and sale of merchandise varieties of fish nets. All right, now the enterprise had 80 bundles of net at the beginning of the year, January 2021. So we had 80 bundles at the beginning of the year. This is what we call the opening stock. Are we there now? Or we call it our balance brought forward. So it was not really a product of receipt or issue, okay? But it was a balance that was brought forward from last year. So we have to take recognition of that. So the beginning of the year is, we will have 1st January, right? In the year is 2021. So 1st January 2021, we did not really a receipt, but it was not an issue as well, but it was a balance, all right, of 80 bundles, 80 bundles, all right. And then the value was 288,000 naira. 288,000 naira. So that's our value, all right. So I want to be suspending 3 zeros, okay. This is for 288,000 naira. Now, the price was not really given, the unit price, right? So in order to calculate for the unit price, what we do here is that we divide, all right? We divide the value by the quantity, okay? We divide the value by the what? The quantity. We're coming to that nevertheless. Now, on the 5th of January, we purchased 200 bundles of net at 2,000 naira each. All right, we have 200 bundles of net on the 5th of January. So we're going to be following that on the 5th. We have 200, the quantity is 200 bundles of net at 2,000 naira each, okay. So the price per unit is 2,000 naira. And then our value, like I said, value is always quantity times price, quantity times price, all right. So to get the value, we are going to be multiplying this, giving us 400,000, okay. Like I said, I want to be working with suspended zeros, so let me also include that here. So I want to work with suspended. So instead of, we'll be writing 400, okay, for 400,000 naira. Now, at the end of the, like I said, we must balance. Whenever we have a receipt or an issue, we must balance the account, all right. So we want to balance now. Since this is a receipt, goods are coming in, it means what we have should be increasing, is not true. So we are going to be adding for the quantity. This is our balance quantity. We add it to the quantity that was bought. Are we there? Now that will be giving us 280 units now, or 280 quantity. And then for the value, we will be adding, since there's an increase in quantity, there will be an increase in value, right? So to increase our value, we'll be having what? 688,000, okay, but we have suspended 3 zeros. Now the next thing we are having, on the 25th of January, we still purchase goods, okay. Now before 25th, like I said, we are working based on calendar days, okay. Now before the 25th, after 5th, we have another date, which is 10th of March, all right. No. Yes, so on the 25th of January 2021, we purchased 300 bundles. Still another receipt, right? We're working with our calendar days. We purchased 300 bundles at 2,200 naira each. So 25th of January, quickly. Okay, now we purchased how many bundles? We purchased 300. 300 bundles at 2,200 naira each, okay. This is what we purchase, our receipt, right? Now to get our value, we still multiply. So multiplying, what do we have? We are suspending 3 zeros, okay. That will be having 660,000, all right. Now we still have to balance. This is a receipt. It means that the balance at the end of the year is going to be on increase, right? So we'll add up. This is the previous balance, so we are adding the new receipt, all right, to give us what? 580. And then we are also adding what? The value. This is the previous value, we are adding this to give us, this is 8, okay. So we are having 1,348,000, okay, but we are suspended 3 zeros nevertheless. Now there was no issue, so we can trace it to the balance. Now the next thing we are having is on the 10th of March. On the 10th of March, we sold 160 bundles. 160 bundles of net at 3,800 naira each. All right, that is, we are making an issue. Okay, we sold 160 bundles of net, 160 at 3,800 naira each. Now let's look at, before we come, like we are using FIFO, right? So FIFO is saying that the first goods must be issued out first before the next one. All right. Now we have a balance here. Like I said, that balance was not really a product of a receipt. It was at the beginning of the time. It was an opening stock, right? Good. So we have to issue 1,600 what we want to issue out. So for the FIFO, we have to use this first before we issue the next one. Are we there now? We have to issue the balance. We must issue everything in the balance first before we issue the balance from here, okay? But what we have in the balance is just 80 units, all right? We have 80 units, so we'll be issuing that 80 units first. Now what's our date? Our date is on the 10th of March 2021. So we are going to be issuing, this is an issue, okay? We are going to be issuing the 80 first. We have to finish first with the one that was available earlier before the next one, right? Good. Now how do we know the price? How do we know our unit price now, which we'll be using? Although a price has been given to us, but the focus of this is not really to make profit. It's not necessarily to calculate profit, okay? It's to calculate the value of our closing stock. That means we have to be using the value at which these goods were bought. Are we there now? So that the price that was given here is 3,800. Nevertheless, we'll not be using that price here unless it tallies with this price. Are we there now? So let's check. Well, for our price for the balance, we'll be dividing 288,000 by 80. Okay, so that will be giving us 3,600. Okay, the price we got per unit is 3,600 for those 80. Are we there? Now we are suspending. Okay, it's for the value. So the 3,600, when we multiply, we'll be having 288,000. We are suspending three zeros. Okay, now, but what they asked us to issue is 160 bundles. All right, so if we have issued 80 from the balance, we are still left with 80, right, to get 160. Now we can move to the next, right? We can now move to the next. Now from here we'll be issuing at this particular price. Are we there now? So for the issue, to make it 160, we'll have to issue another 80, right, from this place now, because we are through with the balance, first in first out. Okay, so we are issuing 80 from here, and then we're using that price, 2,000 naira. Okay, now what is our value? Price times quantity. Are we there now? Price times quantity, and that will be giving us what? 160,000, right? Now this is it for just math, because we want to arrive at a total of 160 units, okay, using our FIFO method. Now we have to balance like we always do. Now we have made an issue, okay? We have made an issue of 160 units. If we made an issue, then it means that our balance should be reducing, right? Whenever goods goes out, the balance reduce, okay? Now, so we are going to be deducting. This is our previous balance. So to get our current balance, this is our previous balance. Now we are subtracting, okay? We are subtracting 160, a total of 80 plus 80, 160 units, okay? We are subtracting 160, and that will be giving us 420. All right, the same with our value. Now because here we are having two values, right? So we have to sum and then we subtract from our previous value. Are we there now? So when we subtract, that will be giving us 900,000. All right, this is the next value. Now we are suspending three zeros, so we don't forget that. So we are having 900,000 as the value, okay, after we have added, because we are having two separate values. So to get our value, we have to add these two up, which will be giving us 448, right? 448,000. And then we deduct, because it's an issue, so it's going out, so we deduct, we minus, okay, from 1,348, because we are suspended. So let me just be using the value like that, okay? 1,348 to give us what? 900. All right, now we are through with this for March, okay, for 10th of March. Now the next is 15th of April, okay? And on the 15th of April, we still sold 180 bundles of nets at 3,700 naira each. Like I said, our focus here is not really the price at which it was sold, we are looking at the issuing, okay? Our case, we are looking at the issuing because we want to know the closing stock. So we have to be issuing goods here based on the price at which they were bought. All right, good. So we are looking at 180 bundles is what we are issuing on the 15th of April. 180 bundles. It's not, there's no receipt. It's an issue. Now, what we want to issue here is 180 bundles. Mind you, we are finished with this 80, right? So you can as well as put an asterisk so that you know that you are through with it, our balance. Now we are also through with 80 bundle. We also issued 80 bundle from here. It means we are left with 120 bundle, right? Now we want to issue 180 bundle. That means we must issue the 120 balance first before we pick up the balance from the next receipt. Are we there now? So we are going to be issuing, to get our one, we have to issue this 120 first. First in, first out. Okay. So our 120 is going out first before the next one. But the price here is what? 2,000 naira. Now, what is our value when we multiply? Our value, we're going to be having 240. All right, so spending 3 zeros. So 240 is what we have. And then to meet up with 180 bundles, which we were told that was sold, okay? Now, we have issued 120, we are left with 60. Now we can pick the 60 from the next. That means we are also through with this receipt. Now we can pick the 60 from the 300, okay? So we are picking 60, and then the price that we are using is 2,200 naira, okay, which is the price of the receipt. When we multiply, we are having 132,000, okay? So suspending our 3 zeros, then we'll be having 132. All right. Now we are through with the issue. We'll still have to balance. We'll still have to balance. All right. So this is our previous balance now. This is our previous balance, 420 units. Okay. Now we less 180, which is the sum total of total quantity that was issued out. Okay. So we less 180 from 420. What we are left with is 240. All right. 240. Now for the value also, this is our previous value, right? So we'll have to sum, since we have two different values, we'll have to sum this. Summing this now, we'll be having 372, okay? And then we'll less it from 900. That will be giving us 528,000, all right? Suspending 3 zeros. Anyway, now the next one, we are through with 15th of April. So for the next one, we are looking at we're going to be looking at the 20th of May, okay, which is the last thing we're going to be looking at. We have the 20th of May. We purchased 140 nets at 2,400 naira each on the 20th of May, okay? 20th of May. So we purchased, this is 20th. So this is a receipt, okay? Whenever you see the word purchase, that means goods were received, okay? So we purchased 140 nets, right? 140 nets. The price at which we purchased them was 2,400 naira each. That's the unit price, all right? So to get our value, we still multiply. That will be giving us 336,000, all right? Now, it is still a receipt. So whenever we have receipt, we need to balance, okay? To balance, it means our goods, since it is a receipt, that means there will be an increase. It's not true. So we're going to be adding. Now, our previous balance for quantity is 240. We have a receipt of 140. So it's increasing, right? We'll be having 380 units, okay, right now. And then for the value, we have 528,000, right? Then the value here is 336. Since it's a receipt, we're adding, okay? And that will be giving us what? 864. All right. So we add this, we have gotten the value, okay, for our closing stock at the end of the year. We have gotten the value of our closing stock. This is the value, okay, using the FIFO method. Now, if we still use in our next video, we'll be looking at the LIFO method using the same illustration, all right? Whenever you use the FIFO method, the value of your closing stock is different from when you use the LIFO method, and it's also different from when you use the weighted average method. That's why we are looking at this method of what? Stock valuation, all right? Is to help us calculate the value of our closing stock at the end of the year. Now, if you want to know how accurate your work is, okay, you can take a summation of the value of your total receipt, okay, total receipt, the value of your total receipt, total quantity for the receipt. We'll be taking the value also for the issues, total issues, and then the value of the issues, okay, the quantity issued, total quantity issued, and then the total value of the issued, okay. Now when we subtract that, okay, we should be having the same thing with this, all right. Now in this case, we need to consider that there was a closing stock, an opening stock, okay, of 80 units at this value, all right. Now we're going to be doing that calculation quickly. The total value, um starting with the receipt, let's look at the quantity. The quantity that was received, the total quantity of receipt we have is just 640 units, all right. Now let's check our value. Here we are having 1396. Yes, we're having 1396 million, okay, but we are suspended 30, right? So we are using the thousand, all right. Now let's look at for the issues. Now for our issue, we are having 160, and then we are still having a sum of 180, okay. That will be giving us, and then for the total value under the issues, we are having 820,000, all right, 820,000. Now if we want to be sure of our work, right, like I said, we want to look at if the value of our, this is our closing balance, right, our closing quantity, and then the value of that closing stock, all right. If we want to see if what we just did is correct, now we can just deduct total receipt, right, total receipt of 640 minus 340, we are left with 300, okay, 300, then plus our opening balance, okay, which was not accounted for because it is not a receipt, neither an issue, all right. So we must take note of our closing balance, all right. So when we add, we'll be having 380. Are we there? And then for the balance, for the value, we'll be having 1396 minus 820. That will be giving us 576, okay, 576,000. Then we'll add the opening value, okay, the value for the opening stock, okay, which is 288,000. When we add that, then we'll be having 864,000. That means what we did is what? Correct under the FIFO method. Now in our next video, we're going to be looking at stock valuation using the last in first out method, okay. Don't forget to like our video, subscribe to our channels if you haven't, subscribe to all our social media handles, share our video with as many as you can. We'll see you in our next class. Thank you.